Hey everybody, welcome to the Magic Weekly News Update for October 22nd, 2017 on the Leek. I'm John as always, and we're starting to get more stories now that Ixalan release is behind us. Up first, just a quick reminder that I'll be streaming for 24 hours this weekend. If you didn't see it, check out the reminder/announcement video from Friday for the full details, but I'll be raising money for my local children's hospital with Extra Life in memory of my sister. There will be tons of Magic, of course, audience participation games like Jackbox games, other games, and of course giveaways. I'm aiming for over $1,000 this year, so if you want to help out, definitely check that out. Up next, this year's holiday promo was revealed. For those who don't know of these, holiday promo cards are sent out to Wizards employees, Wizards Play Network store owners, and other various partners of Wizards in a holiday card. They're silver bordered, meaning they're not legal for play, and they're solidly in the silly, unglued, unhinged, unstable area of card design. This year's is Some Disassembly Required. It's an enchantment for a single black mana, and you can pay a single black mana and sacrifice a creature, and if you do, you distribute the creature's keyword abilities among any number of other target creatures until end of turn. If it's December, you gain 1 life for each of those cards. This seems really fun to me and something that I'd throw in my cube if I got my hands on one of these cards. To get your hands on one of these cards, you basically have to buy them from somebody who has it or from a source that already bought it from them. This seems really fun to me, and it's a great example of what an uncard can do. It works solidly in the Magic rules set, but it would be basically impossible to template this properly. Compare this to something like Odric or Soulflare, where in a real Magic card, you can't just say keyword abilities, you have to spell out what actually it can copy. And why couldn't they do this? How many keyword abilities could there possibly be? Well, 129 keyword abilities as of right now. That's how many keyword abilities they'd have to put on this card. This week was the post-release update to the banned and restricted list. This was meant to be after the Pro Tour, but with the Pro Tour getting shifted a little bit later in the block, it was just sort of a random one. And there's not much to report because nothing changed. Standard's getting better, I hear, and the other formats sound pretty stable. Yes, everyone's favorite pet cards didn't get unbanned, but I'm in favor of keeping things stable rather than unbanning something all willy-nilly just to see what happens. A big hubbub's been made on the Magic subreddit about the Scry bug on MTGO. This is the latest in the if something is less than 100% to happen and it happens, it must be a bug attitude that you see going around a lot with talk of the MTGO shuffler and such. Basically, people have started to believe through confirmation bias and apocryphal stories that when you scry a card to the bottom, you end up drawing it far more than it should actually happen. This is typically backed up by somebody saying, it happened to me 3 times in this game and that's literally impossible, but it's not. But when somebody tests it out by running a singleton deck or different card art or drawing out their entire library to see what's actually on the bottom, there's no evidence supporting it. Well, this week people thought they had the smoking gun. Saffron Olive in a video scried his 4th copy of a card to the bottom and then promptly drew it. Bug! MTGO is a lie, but no. What actually happened was just a sloppy misclick, which Saffron Olive does a number of times, and I certainly do as well. And he actually scried the card to the top and, surprise, drew it. So no, there's still no proof that this bug exists, there's strong evidence that it doesn't, and no, the shuffler is not screwing me over when I just constantly flood out. I'm just really unlucky. Finally this week, Wizards released a statement about an Ixalan card stock issue, and no, it's not the issue you're thinking of, which is an issue I honestly can't comment on because it doesn't seem to affect me at all. And to add a data point, my boosters all say they're printed in Sweden, and I don't have that issue that is loudly talked about on the subreddit. Some number of Ixalan double-faced cards, however, were printed on cardstock that does not have the blue inner layer. For those who aren't familiar with this, every real Magic card has a blue layer inside the card. So you've got the front of the card, there's a blue layer inside, and then you've got the back of the card. If you rip a card, this is where the rip test comes from. If you rip a card in half, you'll actually clearly see this blue layer. You'll see a blue line around where the rip pulled the card apart from its various layers. Since these cards that were not printed on this correct cardstock actually fail one of the most solidly not a counterfeit tests around, Wizards needed to release a statement saying, yep, it happened, and yes, they are real Magic cards. It doesn't seem to be a huge print run issue, as Card Kingdom tested a ton of their stock and found about a 2% rate of this error happening. That being said, if you got multiples in sequentially printed boxes, you might see a higher percentage of it, but overall it does seem to be relatively rare. So not even an issue unless you are, actually testing the card to see if it's a counterfeit or regularly shining lights through your cards or ripping them up. Otherwise, they're totally normal. Well, with the news out of the way, let's get back to story time and the race to Orazga in The Race Part 2. Again, this story is super action-packed with all the tribes plus Angrath rushing towards the city. Jace and Vraska spend the night in the small boat that they're sailing upriver with Vraska singing a song of the Golgari as Jace falls asleep. The ship officially sails as Vraska thinks she might ask Jace on a date after all this is over, and how badly she wants to petrify whoever stole his memories. Which, reminder, is the person who hired her to go on this little quest. The next day, a vampire attacks them and manages to steal the compass and run. Jace starts to track her, but instead hears Huatli and Tishana's thoughts as they crash out of the jungle at them, wanting the compass as well. Jace, however, tells them that a vampire has stolen it, and Huatli and Tishana immediately shoot off in pursuit aboard their dinosaur and elemental mounts. Jace and Vraska follow, tracking not only the vampire now, but also Huatli and Tishana. Switching perspectives to Huatli, we see her and Tishana follow the vampire, searching, and it takes them about 9 hours before catching up to the vampire, who's begun to tire after, I guess, 9 hours of running. Huatli's dinosaur makes short work of her, tossing her around like a rag doll and allowing Tishana to grab the compass. Tishana immediately becomes a little bit cagey, and Huatli reminds her they had a deal. As Tishana replies, "We did," Huatli is hit with a large flap of canvas as the brazen coalition pirates arrive along with Vraska and Jace. Tishana summons a raging river and tells Huatli she's on her own and vanishes into the jungle with the knowledge of where the compass was pointing. The pirates, Vraska and Jace, similarly disappear, once again with the compass. After Tishana's departure, Angrath arrives, wanting to talk with Huatli, trying to convince her that she's like him, meaning, of course, a planeswalker, not a giant minotaur. Angrath tells her that they can leave this plane by finding whatever is in the city that's keeping them there. They just have to kill everyone that gets in their way. Huatli thinks to herself, spectacular. The murder monster wants to be my friend. Back to Vraska now, the compass begins vibrating as they approach where the city must be, and they see the golden spires of Orazga rising out of the jungle. As they start to get closer, relatively speaking, the ground begins to shake and the city begins rising out of the ground itself. It continues rising, causing rifts to open all around it and waterfalls to be created, which Jace falls from, crashing to the bottom. Vraska follows him immediately, landing in the pool below and immediately getting hit by a flash of Ravnica. She spots Jace clinging to a rock with blood gushing out of his head and his eyes filled with magic. Suddenly, Vraska is wearing a blue cloak and a hood, and she's standing in the Forum of Azor on Ravnica, with Niv Mizzet and the various maze runners from the Dragon's Maze race. Vraska realizes that Jace is remembering everything, and that with that, he'll remember his job, he'll remember her, their grudge, that he's the living guild pact, he'll remember everything, and everything they had will soon be over. So that's going to wrap it up for the Magic Weekly News Update for Storytime. Let me know what you think of all of this. Are you a firm believer in the MTGO Scrybug? If so, maybe look up some information about the confirmation bias. What do you think of Storytime? Did you want something banned or unbanned? Let me know. Whatever you're thinking about. And as I said at the start, remember that 24-hour stream on Saturday. Donate if you can. That would be fantastic. Any amount absolutely helps us get to that $1,000 goal. Hang out and chat. Keep me awake, etc. But if you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Mana Leek. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at facebook.com/themanaleek, twitch.tv/themanaleek, and patreon.com/themanaleek. If you like the content, click that thumbs up button, click subscribe if you want to see more, and if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see y'all next time.